that just blew me away. I'm like, she is playing it so well.
Secret Agent Arrow, it's awesome. I gotta say, I was a little worried. We knew, as comic readers, we had a pretty good idea this is where the show was heading. And I was worried that, the general TV audience was not going to respond as well as many readers did to Alexandria and this whole idea. But I'm thrilled to say, and I don't want to skip ahead to our Facebook page and our listener stuff, but just a general reaction I've seen on Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and various reviews I've read, people seem to really dig this episode and this new turn for the show. And I'm really happy to see that. Because like I said, I was legitimately a little bit concerned about that.
And a lot better comments from people around the internet than last week's episode as to where those people should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, luckily I missed seeing that, but I definitely know what happened, and I'm thrilled that a lot of people stood up for being a decent human being, which is nice. I appreciate that. But enough about that. Before we get into the actual episode plot synopsis, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor, DCBService.com. DCB Service is a great website where you can go and order your comics in advance. Comics are expensive, but they don't have to be. And one of the best places and one of the cheapest places to get them is DCBService.com. You order your comics in advance, they come to you in a nice box, they have great customer service, and you're going to get 15, 25, 30, 50% off sometimes your floppy comics, your trade paperbacks, t-shirts, hats, whatever comic book related, or just whatever nerd type stuff you're into. You can get it there for way cheaper than you're going to see anywhere else. And it's a really, really awesome service. Their sister site, InStock Trades, also deals with the hardcovers and the trade paperbacks. Pick yourself up a compendium for Walking Dead Volume 1 or 2. Get yourself 48 issues at a pop for deep, deep discounts. Those Walking Dead, what are they called, Jim? I know you're a big fan of them. They're almost like Lego sets, but they're made by McFarlane Toys.
Right, well, they've had like a few different sets. The ones that just came out were these, I hate to call them action figures because they're more like dioramas. Like, they're a whole scene from The Walking Dead, not just a figure, but like, say, the one I ordered has from DCB Service has Daryl on his chopper with like a chain link fence and some walkers and like a street scene, like a whole entire diorama. So it's pretty sweet. McFarlane has done some really cool stuff with that license. And I mean, if you're into the action figures and toys like I am, you can order those at DCB Service as well. Even if you just want to get a Walking Dead t-shirt or a Michonne hoodie or whatever, they have all those things there at a deep discount, good price, good people to work with, and customer service is second to none.
And we thank them for their service. Awesome people. Before we get into the actual plot synopsis, there's a little bit of news we have about the season finale of The Walking Dead this year. Aaron, why don't you let our listeners know what they can expect from the season finale that's been announced?
For sure. Some of the people may already know this, but it's been announced that the Walking Dead season finale will be 90 minutes long. So yeah, we're having an extended episode of The Walking Dead when the season ends. So something's happening. I hope it's an intense bridge tournament between Rick and Michonne and everyone else that plays bridge at Alexandria. But who knows? Maybe it'll be something more violent. I don't know.
Have we had a 90-minute episode other than the pilot? Because that was 90 minutes, right?
The second season premiere was extended.
Oh, was it? Okay. But was the pilot also 90 minutes?
The pilot was. That's a good question. I believe it was at least it was at least extended. I don't know if it was like a full 90-minute extension.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I believe it was a longer. Yeah, it's a 67 minutes. So like in TV time, it's like an hour 15, something like that.
Yeah, good point.
If not longer.
So we have that to look forward to, but that's a few weeks in the future. Let's say we talk about this week's episode in depth.
Looking at the second season premiere, it also says 67 minutes. So yeah, I guess that equals 90 minutes of TV time without commercials.
But no others aside from that. The season premiere of the first two seasons and this one, huh?
Not that I can recall. No, I think every other episode's been give or take a minute or so. I think every episode's been fit within that hour kind of time frame. Yeah, the 42, 45-ish minute time frame.
So this week's episode was titled Remember, Season 5, Episode 12, directed by Greg Nicotero and written by Channing Powell, and we have a whole bunch of guest actors. I actually thought this was kind of funny. I saw a lot of people, not really complaining, just pointing out, it didn't seem like there was a lot of people in Alexandria, but there's quite a few we had introduced just in this first episode. So we have Tova Feldshuh as Deanna Monroe. Deanna Monroe, we'll talk about the character as we get into the episode, but as far as I can remember, actually the first gender-swapped character in The Walking Dead. Was it Donald Monroe in the comics? Douglas Monroe.
Douglas, yes.
And Tova Feldshuh is like a veteran actor, like going back to the 70s. She appeared on The Love Boat for Pete's sake. She's been a recurring character on the original Law and Order.
For like 15 years.
Yeah. So I mean, she's definitely paid her dues and been around. It was a pleasant surprise for me to see her. When she sat down with Rick or whatever, I was like, wow, this is a powerful actor, working on the show now.
I was very pleased by this casting choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was saying to Chub Toad off the air before the rest of you guys got on that I'm actually really excited about them gender swapping this character because of some of the story places that can go that it couldn't have gone or just didn't go with a male character in the same place in the comics. So I'm pretty excited about that. And not to mention the fact that she was really, really good in the episode. Then, of course, we had Tyler James Williams as Noah. We were introduced to Alexandra Breckenridge as Jessie. She's been on True Blood before, 2 different seasons of American Horror Story, episode of Buffy back in the day. She's been around for quite a while as well. We saw Ross Marquand as Aaron again. We were introduced to Daniel Bonjour as Aiden Monroe, Diana's son. Austin Abrams as Ron, who's Jesse's son, if I recall correctly. Jordan Woods Robinson as Eric. Corey Brill as Pete, which I believe is Jesse's husband. Is that what we decided on?
Yes.
Michael Traynor as Nicholas. Caitlin Nakin as Enid. Terrible name, but I feel bad for her. But Caitlin Nakin, you may remember from Too Many Cooks. She was one of the many, many people in the Too Many Cooks short from earlier this year.
Too Many Cooks.
Thank you.
Greatness.
Elijah Marcano as Mikey, who I assume is one of the other kids. I don't really recall off my head. Same with Anna Mahoney. Actually, Anna Mahoney as Olivia, she was the old lady on the porch. Is that right? Or was she the lady who took the guns? There's a lot of characters in this episode.
I stopped caring. I'll know next week.
And Major Dodson, yes, that is correct. Major Dodson as Sam.
Olivia took the guns, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
And Jerry Mathers as the Beaver.
So Remember starts with Rick and the group entering the Alexandria safe zone, which is the scene we saw during Talking Dead last week, where they're greeted by Nicholas, who asks them to surrender their weapons, and Rick refuses.
And they did this, really intentionally throughout the whole episode. As far as I noticed, they kind of gave it that feeling of unease, like they're hiding something, like they're not telling the whole story. I mean, at the beginning of the scene that you're describing right now, we see them going into the gate from behind a window in one of the abandoned houses outside the gate. We see it from that point of view deliberately. To kind of make us think, well, somebody's watching them and has nothing to do with that, or somebody's keeping them. You know what I mean?
I agree with you to an extent, Jim. I think, especially in the opening sequence, there's a level of tension of what is really going to happen here. But I do think it lets the audience allow their guard to be down as the episode goes on. I think
only to then throw that back at them with the final scene, which I thought was kind of awesome.
Which is more coming from we'll get there, but coming from Rick and the gang side than anything.
Right, exactly. So Rick refuses to give up the guns, but Aaron suggests to Nicholas, the guy who meets him at the gates, that maybe they should first meet the leader, Deanna, and then they can give up the guns later. And everyone agrees to that. Eventually, a possum comes out. Daryl shoots that, and that's dinner. Because you always got to bring a gift, as I said on Talking Dead. And a zombie comes up, and Rick has Sasha take out the zombie sniper style.
Well, he's really demonstrating to them how well trained they are together as a group. He's kind of showing off, not showing off, but kind of giving them an object lesson. Because Rick barely makes a motion, just says Sasha, and Sasha immediately just takes it out.
And doesn't he say something along the lines of "Good thing we're here" or something like that?
Yeah, we came by today.
Fairly quickly after that, we meet Deanna Monroe, who is a former congresswoman from Ohio, where technically she was never kicked out of office, so theoretically she's still a congresswoman.
For life.
But she interviews the group individually, and we see this throughout the episode with different cuts. She records the interviews for transparency, and we're told during talking, this was never said during the show, but basically the idea is anyone in Alexandria can request to view the tapes and view the tapes at any time. Deanna tries to operate the whole thing as transparently as possible. There's no secrets. At least it's not her point of view. That's the thing she's telling everyone, at least.
It's just a leftover from when she was in Congress. It's just the government wanting to video and spy on the public. That's all it is. It's my conspiracy theory anyway.
Yeah, you've been in Oklahoma too long, man.
The evening I moved here was too long in Oklahoma. But yeah, go ahead.
About the interviews, I would say, and it's not that like threw me. I mean, because again, I like this episode a lot. It's my favorite of the season. The interview stuff, with the exception of two, one being Rick and the other being Carol, I think both for obvious reasons. It felt like it was like a little too much. I don't know what to do differently about this or what have you. Just like getting this footage stuff and having it spliced into the episode throughout. Again, I don't know what the better way to handle this is. It felt like it's like, all right, I get the idea of this, as opposed to kind of seeing more of just our cast interacting with the rest of the town outside of this kind of setup.
I actually like the idea of it. I just feel that they wasted it all in this episode. I think what would have been a really cool play is for the rest of the season. What do we have? 5 more episodes? Four more episodes, and 5 including this one though. And let things play out as they're getting to know in the community, and then as things are relevant to the interview, flashback to so and so's interview, how it plays out in that scene. You get what I'm saying?
Which could still happen.
It could still happen, yeah.
There's plenty of other cast members we didn't see have this take place in.
I didn't mind the framing sequence of those, like little portraits or whatever. Mainly because, like you said, Aaron, Rick's and Carol's, with the, varying levels of sincerity in the different people being interviewed. But I didn't mind it so much. It just kind of gave us an idea of their frame of mind and how they felt like coming. It just impressed upon me how these characters have evolved and changed since the first season. Putting them back in a quote unquote normal situation, such as the South India Free Zone, and how out of place they feel and how out of place they are, and how far removed from that they are now. I really like that kind of juxtaposition interplay in this episode.
Which is completely fair, and I understand it. Again, it's not something that's completely thrown me off this episode in terms of that was horrible. It's just more of seeing Daryl act the way he does. I don't know if I needed like a video interview to like further emphasize that he doesn't like it here or that he's just untrusting.
Right.
And same with Glenn, who Glenn gets, he gets his own standout sequence in the actual episode outside of the video stuff, where it's like, I really need to see him, let alone, other scenes we've seen with Glenn throughout the season, so this half of the season, it seems a little redundant. Again, it's not a huge issue, it's just more of like, I don't know if we really need all this. That's just kind of where I'm coming from.
See, I really, really liked the framing sequence of them while watching the episode, but I liked it even more once the episode was done because of that final scene. And for me, it's not, I agree with what you guys are saying, how it's showing us how they've changed and showing them, trying to adjust this world, but it's also very useful for not just showing that, but also showing these characters. And we talked about last week how like Rick was coming off like a villain in some places, and how these characters must look like Aaron and Eric and stuff. But it's showing us these characters through the eyes of not just the camera, but of Alexandria in general. It's showing us what they look like to this, what seems to be, at least from this episode, a very peaceful, nice, normal-ish, at least for even for pre-apocalypse community. It's showing what these characters look like to them, and particularly with the twist at the end, how they're going to look to this community going forward if Rick goes ahead with his plan.
And one thing I did really appreciate about it, especially when she interviews Rick in the beginning, is that she kind of breaks down like all the kind of little nitpicks I had in the back of my mind. Well, like how do they have water, how do they have electricity, all these other things that kind of bothered me, and this kind of got that out of the way real quick while she was interviewing Rick, and I appreciated that they didn't linger on drawing that out. They just kind of explained it and then went on.
Jordan, you mentioning what you liked about recognizing these videotapes afterwards. I feel like that helps if you watch Talking Dead and understand that everyone will see these videotapes.
Oh, I don't even mean from that perspective. I just mean for us as an audience to see them through the eyes of the people of Alexandria and really contrast those two things. Seeing the questions that Deanna is asking because she's trying to find out more about these people who look like monsters in many respects. They look like crazy hill people who have come into suburbia.
Well, that's fair. And again, I agree with what Rich was saying, where I like the idea of them, I guess, more than how they came off in this episode. But again, not to like a diminishing effect because it didn't bother me that much. Just something, if there was something to point out as something that seemed like a minor flaw in my eyes, that's where I go.
Fair enough. So we learned quite a bit about Deanna, particularly through Rick's interview. She, like we said, she's a congresswoman from Ohio. She was heading back to her district when as everything was going down, never made it there, but she got to this community, and as Jim pointed out, she answers all the questions of this was designed to be a self-sustaining community, more or less. The houses were going for, was it low 800s or something like that, or mid 800,000 range, and her and her husband showed up there with their son Aiden, and her husband was an architect, so they helped build these walls, and basically just in very short order lays down all the information you need to know about the structural mechanics of this community, at least, which was good. She asked Rick a bunch of questions, and he tells her, you shouldn't be letting people inside these walls if it's so great. You should lock the doors and not let anybody in. You haven't seen what it's like out there. I have, and she points out that he's already trying to protect the safe zone, which she appreciates.
Rick does a good job of kind of laying out where he's coming from and not making it necessarily sound threatening, but making it sound just real. Just giving a wake-up call, essentially, in terms of how they might perceive things to be versus how things actually are based off actual record.
We also learned that Deanna is quite proud of her poker face and her ability to read people, and she mentions that she had thought about retiring and becoming a professional poker player, and when I think Rick laughs at this, she tells him, no, I'm serious, which I think might be considered overplaying your hand, but you never know.
I love the reaction on both sides of this. I think you'll laugh.
Also, we later see Carol's interview, and we'll get into this later, but she lies about her past. She implies she has very few survival skills, she's a meek housewife. She basically plays off her and her husband's relationship like it was, the Cleavers or something like that, and she's just glad to be back to society and wants to help with the 4-H club and the, Young Republicans, or what was the group she was talking about?
Junior League.
She wants to have a junior league she can help lead, as Deanna is trying to find what positions to put this new group into.
The great thing about this, even before what happened, how she dresses and what we'll get into, is she's playing the long con. She starts it from the very beginning when she's turning in her weapons. When she's turning in her weapons, she kind of fumbles them in and smiles, and it's like I never used this. I just kind of carried around that kind of look. It's amazing what she's doing right now. I love it.
The way she fumbles with that rifle that's on her back. It's just, because for a second I'm going, what the hell is she doing? And then it all kind of makes sense when she did her interview, but I'm just like, I think I even tweeted out Carol slinging some bullshit out there tonight.
Expertly slinging it, by the way.
I thought at first she was going for like some kind of comedy thing where like it's like the little girl that has like all these weapons on her or something, like she's gonna pull out that and like grab 3 other guns out from places you didn't expect or something. But no, it's just more of, this is her setting up exactly who her character is supposed to be right now in terms of the people under the eyes of Alexandria, which is great.
Which did lead me to a question, which is, did Deanna not ask them about each other during these interviews? Or did she set this up with everyone else, just play it off like a movie housewife? Or did she just hope that Deanna was not going to ask her anybody else about, the rest of the group? What does this person do? What does that person do?
Based off how she and Daryl communicate later on, I feel like no one knew that there was this plan happening because she had to explain what she was doing to Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, although she could have just not told Daryl and trusted that he wouldn't say anything because it's Daryl.
Fair enough, but I think that's more the case, and I do think it's less. I just don't think Deanna was asking these people about the other people. I think it was the idea of just getting kind of one-on-one conversations and like where they lie.
Which I like Deanna quite a bit, but if she was not asking questions about the other people, that's really stupid.
Oh, I mean, again, also Rick's group, consists of a bunch of people. So I don't know if Deanna can't find a way to ask that leads her to, getting a personal profile on every single person in one small video. I think there's ways. I think it works in terms of what, regardless if she was asking questions about the rest of the group or not. I don't think there's too much discrepancy in the idea that nobody would mention. No one's going to run around and say Carol's, she's the big badass of us all or whatever.
Oh no, I can buy that. I just feel like she should have been asking better questions. Because in general, I like her quite a bit. She seems very competent, but that's just maybe she's a little too trusting, I guess.
But the amount of probing might not have led to led down that road.
Not to mention, Aaron and Eric have probably reported at times on the group and the specific people because they knew things. So I'm sure that there is some truth out there as to Carol being a badass that's been reported to her at some time.
Well, I think your whole thing about Deanna being too trusting is definitely made evident at the end when with the job that she gives Rick and Michonne, you know what I mean, or offers Rick and Michonne. I mean, she's definitely too trusting. She barely knows these people, and she's offering him to be sorry Jerry, to be the constable of their free zone, basically to enforce the law, whatever that may be there. But she does seem very very much too trusting, especially for this deep into the zombie apocalypse as we are. You know what I mean? Right. Maybe it's true like what they say later on in the episode about they worry about them getting weak if they're in this free zone for too long. Maybe that's what's happened to them.
I think that's part of it, but there's also we haven't seen Deanna outside of in the presence of Rick and the gang. I mean, we don't know what she's like behind the scenes, just like everyone in Woodbury didn't know about. Is that Woodbury? Is that right?
Yeah,
Woodbury.
Yeah.
Okay, Woodbury, didn't know what the governor was really all about. We still don't have like confirmation that Alexandria is the greatest place the world will be. There's, you could chalk it up to not showing the other hand yet, if that is the case.
Also, speaking of the governor, I don't know that we should really apologize, but last week we were joking about the leader of Alexandria being the mayor, or the comptroller. I think we'd all forgotten about the fact that the leader actually was a congressperson.
Yeah.
It was not us trying to skirt around spoilers. We had forgotten. So, sorry, I guess, but not a big deal. I did find that funny that, that actually is what happened.
I mean, there was this deleted scene where Deanna does like to be referred to as the comptroller, though. So.
Eventually, we do see them all surrendering their weapons, as was pointed out already. They give them all to, who do we decide that was, Olivia maybe? Who takes them on a cart, which was a funny scene. She's like, I should have brought another cart, and there's just this cart is covered in guns and knives and grenades and all other manner of weaponry.
I like what that EP said that was on Talking Dead about how we didn't even realize how many weapons these people actually carry on them to play these characters until we had that scene.
Yeah, now they're all laughing behind the camera and stuff as that scene was going down. Rick goes back to his house. They all kind of go back and check out their houses and stuff like that. Rick goes up to the bathroom and sees his crazy bearded face for the first time in a long time, and takes a moment to shower and shave, and then come down and reveal that is a good-looking dude.
Now, do we need to pour one out here for Rick's beard?
Yes, definitely.
Maybe play the song "Dead Homies" by Ice Cube or something in the background as we end the episode, because Rick's beard's been with us a long time, longer than some of the cast members. So,
and that was one epic beard.
It was. That was a mountain man, Grizzly Adams worthy beard. That was good.
I want to go back and listen to him in the first couple episodes, because even though he shaved the beard off, he still sounds like grizzled old man. So I'm curious how different he is in those earlier episodes and how young his youthful and still kind of English inflection his voice may sound in those earlier episodes compared to now. He's withered by the war against undead and Coral.
Because really, shaving that beard took a good 10-15 years off of him.
But he still sounded so beardly.
Oh yes. And when he comes down, still I think he's still wrapped in a towel and shirtless. There's a knock at the door, and we're introduced to Jessie, who lives nearby, has a young son named Ron, and a smoking creepy husband named Pete, who we'll see later. And she tells Rick that she used to be a hairdresser, and she offers to cut his hair, which she later does. And by the time she's done, Rick looks pretty much just like he did in the pilot, which is really amazing, and more so when we go down to the episode and puts on a uniform. But it's really a trip back in time. It was weird seeing.
Now, when was the last time they had real showers? Going back to the prison, maybe?
I mean, the prison they had like cold water showers coming from like a plastic bag, basically.
Did you have to go from to the CDC for an actual honest-to-God shower? Like the last time
the CDC, and then before that, the police lockup or the sheriff's station in the pilot, him and Morgan and Dwayne went there and had showers.
As far as the majority of the cast goes, I mean, Woodbury had it pretty nice.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. And you never know; they might have found something along the way that we just never saw.
The bathing dead.
This is probably the best shower anyone's had since maybe Woodbury for some of them, but the CDC for the rest of them.
Well, yeah, Michonne came out. She was brushing her teeth for like half an hour or something.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell it'd been a while for a shower when they had that shot of all the grimes coming off of Rick.
Yeah.
Rick Grimes, I see what you did there.
Pun noted.
Wow.
We also follow Carl for a while as he meets up with Ron and some of the other kids in the town, and they offer to play video games with him and play pool, and it's really weird to see Carl interacting with other teenagers. And I was a little worried at first because teenagers on TV hanging out can just get really boring and annoying really quickly, but at least as far as this episode is concerned, I did not have a problem with it.
I like the scene a lot, both because Chandler Riggs has developed so well and his character has developed so well. Remember we used to, hate Carl and make fun of him? Now, watching him have to deal with the complexity of choosing whether to play pool or Xbox, that was just fascinating to me as he kind of I don't know what to do. Or it's just that was great. That was a little scene that I really liked.
Which did my eyes to see me, or was that a copy of The Amazing Wolfman?
I wouldn't have been surprised if it was.
I caught the word wolf on the back of the cover. And it turns out it was Enid's comic book, and Enid is the young girl of the group, mid-teenager somewhere in there, not very good at gauging ages, but she's a recent addition to the community. She's only been there, I think they say 6 or 8 months, and she's kind of cut off from the rest of the group, doesn't really talk much, and as Carl pointed out later, doesn't seem to like him.
Let's all make sure to write in that Jordan needs to get on their new reality show, Gauging Ages, by the way. But yeah, we got new kids, and one of them, she's quieter than the others, but I'm sure she and Carl will have lots to talk about in episodes to come.
Carl eventually has a sit down with Rick later in the episode where he mentions that he's worried that their group is going to get weak because everyone in this community just seems weak. They've been cut off from surviving so long that they've either forgotten about how to do it or they've never done it in the first place, which is, I thought, a very apt thing for Carl to say, and definitely, his dad is impressed by that observation.
Yeah, Carl was crushing it this episode, I'm telling you, he was doing his part.
For the first few nights that they're in the community, the group elects to all stay in the same house and all sleep on the floor together so that they can keep watch and not be strung up in their sleep or something like that, which Deanna comes over to the house one night with, I forget what she's bringing over, whether it's just say hi or bring something, but she notes that they're all there and says it's a good idea, and she's happy to see they're all sticking together and that they're like a family. She seems very impressed by them in general.
He respects them as a group that they're doing this for the time being.
Right.
Plus, we also get the scenes of Rick keeps waking up in the middle of the night. With the first scene, he goes into the kitchen and pulls out a big butcher knife. He just kind of stands there in the dark in the kitchen holding the butcher knife. And the second scene, he wakes up and Michonne is also awake, and they kind of discuss about what's going on as well. Just their old habits are dying hard in this in the environment.
And Rick's mind never stops working the whole episode. Later, he tells Glenn to try to find a way to bring back to get back the weapons from the lockup. He's always working with somebody or on something. He's always keeping his eyes open. Even as he's having trouble adjusting to this life, he's not going to become weak like Carl's worried about. He's very, very aware of his surroundings and what's going on. Except when he loses his kids briefly, but he gets them back. So Rick eventually heads outside the gates in an attempt to get that gun that he had stashed in the blender last episode. And he gets there, and there's no gun in the blender. And then zombies come out and he starts fighting them. But right before that had happened, we were also inside the gates, and we see Carl looking out the window, and he sees Enid sneaking out of the safe zone. She has a way to climb over the walls, and he follows her. And I gotta say, my TV signal cut out right here, so the next thing I know, he's there with Rick fighting zombies. So someone clue me in. What happened between him climbing over the wall, Rick finding there was no gun, and then all of a sudden they're together fighting
He
zombies?
followed her into the woods and then lost her, and then kind of showed up at Rick's side.
Yeah.
Did he hear something, or was he just there?
No, Carl just kind of appears on the scene as well. I mean, I imagine the locations are fairly close to each other, and he probably heard something. But Rick sort of like freaking out, like, why is there no gun here? Carl shows up, and then the fighting ensues.
And Rick gives Carl the final kill, which was a nice father-son bonding moment in an episode with a number
I
of
was just gonna say this is when we get a nice father-son kill, which is probably my zombie kill of the week for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I would hopefully at some point want to see a boyhood mashup of Walking Dead scenes with Rick and Carl sharing zombie kills together. There we go.
Let me tell you about my best friend. Yeah.
That is weird. I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that, Jim, the courtship of Eddie Potter.
But that was Scott Ian they killed, by the way. That he allowed they let Coral kill.
Oh, was it? Okay, I knew he
Drax.
was going to be on as a zombie.
Yeah, that
But
was the one that reaches out for the leg under for Rick's
one who
leg.
was taking a nap under the
Yeah,
trash.
right. Because as you do when you're a zombie.
Was Oscar the zombie?
That was just Scotty and just hanging out, by the way. Too. They didn't know they were gonna do that. He was like, oh hey guys, I'm just sleeping under this trash.
Right. There was no makeup involved.
Now, I've heard some people speculate that zombie might have been put there as a trap by someone. I didn't get that from the episode, but I've seen a lot of people saying that.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't
think
think
it's.
so.
I think it's more like whatever that was, it collapsed or something. It was just kind of stuck there until lying dormant until noise and activity made its presence.
I think Enid grabbed that gun.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Who do we think grabbed the gun?
Well, as we found out, Aaron and Eric, they've been watching Rick's crew, so it'll be surprising if there's other watchers among the folks in Alexandria. So the options are open. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Enid is the one, given that the episode tries to make it pretty clear that she goes on her own, no one knows about it.
And that she's kind of separated from the rest of Alexandria, has only been there for a short period of time.
For sure.
Certainly a decent idea. Also, early on in the episode, Deanna mentions that I think she says recently, but had to exile someone out of the community.
Three people.
So there's three people that we've never seen. They could be dead for all we know, but possibly one of them. My mind also went to Carol. That Carol is not too far away, and given her whole secret agent routine, maybe she tried to smuggle a gun. It seems like something she would do. I don't know that she would take Rick's gun without telling him, but it's a possibility.
Should we talk about Carol? I think we kind of skip past what went on with her, even though we kind of addressed it already.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about this. So, in addition to lying to Deanna about who she is and fumbling with the gun when she handed over her weapons, she is also dressed up like Mr. Rogers or Carol Brady or Mrs. Cleaver by the end of the episode.
Martha Stewart.
I was thinking more
Sure,
of like
sure.
that Tina Fey and Amy Poehler in the Mom Jeans commercial.
Sure. And she clues in Daryl that this is all basically part of a long con to make everyone trust her and not suspect her as a threat, just in case she needs to become one and have the upper hand. And he promptly tells her that she looks ridiculous, which I laughed out loud at.
I was waiting for her to start going door to door selling Avon or Mary Kay.
Who looks more ridiculous though? The woman that's dressed up nice, or the unshaven, unshowered man gutting a possum on the front step?
No, I was gonna say, he's on the porch of this like McMansion gutting his possum. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, everybody's got to have a hobby.
Awesome possum.
Awesome
I should say,
possum. Absolutely.
That's what the kids say.
Is it?
Ask Enid.
Which kids?
The kids who are around a lot of possums. So also we have Glenn, Tara, and Noah joining Nicholas and Deanna's son Aiden. Is Aiden or Aiden? Which one is it?
Aiden.
They're going on a supply run with them because Deanna's assigning jobs. Rick becomes the constable, like we said. Carol's going to be making food for the old and the infirmed and that kind of thing, which is a useful job. And we'll eventually find out that Michonne is going to be Rick's co-constable, if you will. They will be the law.
It's gonna be the top show of the fall season. Rick and Michonne.
Rick Schoen.
What will Abraham do?
Mustaches. He'll be in charge of mustaches.
Okay.
That is an important job.
Did you notice Gabriel in this episode at all?
Yeah, he was in the background in a few scenes.
All right.
Which
I
is
just-
exactly where I want him if he's going to be anywhere.
For sure. And obviously the episode can't do everybody justice, so I'm not surprised. I just basically missed him as opposed to seeing out and out scenes that say like, look, this guy's in the cast still. Like, but at the same time, I was like, I don't
I would have liked to seen his little confessional video. That would have been
Maybe we will.
interesting.
Well, maybe we will next week. Who knows?
Time will tell.
And I bet there'd be nothing more entertaining than watching Eugene's video.
Oh, I want to see that so bad. Oh. So Nicholas is the guy we met at the gate at the very beginning of the episode who asked for the guns and was told off by Rick and Aaron. And Aiden, this is I think the first time we see him, and he is very quickly revealed to be a douche. I just didn't like him from the beginning, and it was nice to see by midway through his scenes, he even points out, yes, I know I'm kind of a jerk and douchebag, but that's who I am. So at least he's self-aware.
It doesn't make it any better. I'm sorry. Just because you're an asshole. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Just
it's
because
not.
you're a douchebag and you're aware of it doesn't make it any better. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm douchey and I know it.
Yeah. Almost makes it worse.
And he's the reason that I think that Deanna so quickly to trust Rick in the group. Because I think that she's trying to figure out, after she's exiled 3 people that probably aren't happy with her, some of the other problems, the dwindling numbers in their community, so forth and so on. And her best hope for people to lead groups outside those walls or to have any kind of experience in protecting the community, her best hope is her son Aiden, who is a complete and utter douche. I think that she's hoping that this is the option to finally have some sort of sense of security.
Just like Carl is worried that they're going to become weak by being inside the walls, I think Deanna is hoping that just the presence of Rick's people will make the community strong.
Well, I don't think she's wrong in that, so.
Oh, I agree.
I think if the payoff didn't come in this episode already, in terms of just kind of Aiden, getting punched in the face, I would have found this to be something to find gripe with. But I was so happy with the way it all turned out.
Yeah.
Where, like after getting a nifty scene of like Tara ripping off the skin of the walker, it's like, oh, that's gross looking. Getting like the result back after when they arrive back home and you get that alpha male stuff, and then Glenn's not backing down, Aiden's not backing down. Then he takes a swing and Glenn's like does amazing duck work and just knocks him in the face. Like, yeah, good stuff, good job.
So let's back up for a minute to find out how we got there, which is they go on the supply run. Aiden's a douche. He tells them that they recently lost a couple people to a zombie, and so basically the whole do everything I tell you, don't do anything else type routine. I was in the ROTC or whatever, so you have to listen to me because I think I know what I'm doing. And he tells them, the zombie, because they killed a couple of their people, that him and Nicholas, I don't know if he says anyone else, but at least him and Nicholas strung the zombie up, and it's basically their pre-scavenging ritual to, I don't know if they were going to shoot at it or what they were going to do, but this zombie is up there and it's there. Look at that thing and remember what happens if you're not careful out there. But there's no zombie to be found because it had fallen off the hooks or whatever they hung it up on. The zombie comes out. Our group is quickly ready to dispatch of it like normal, rational people, but Aiden doesn't want it destroyed. He wants to hang it back up there. There's a scuffle. Eventually, like Aaron pointed out, Tara is grabbing at it and its skin is ripping right off like fried chicken, and then her and Glenn take it down down, which puts Aiden over the edge, and he brings him back and basically says, "You're not ready. You don't know what you're doing out there." And Glenn stands up to him and is like, "You are just an idiot. It's not us out there who doesn't know what we're doing. Even Noah, the new guy, can tell that we know what we're doing, and you have no idea." And eventually punches Aiden. And there's a little brawl. Everybody comes out. Even Deanna comes out. It's all, kind of washed under the bridge. And then Deanna thanks Glenn for punching her son, which made me love her immediately.
Yes, for that. Let's stop a bit. Glenn is doing his best to just talk it up and not like react. And Aiden is doing the same until he goes over the edge. He swings at Glenn first. Glenn ducks and then punches Aiden in the face, which is amazing. And then what's even like more amazing to me is that the second Aiden gets punched and knocked down, the other guy Nicholas, he like lunges at Glenn, but then Daryl lunges back at him and takes him down first. That's love. That's love right there.
That was awesome.
Well, Rick has to come like talk Daryl off of him. You know what I mean? There's that moment where Rick is like trying to talk Daryl down from taking him out.
It's a good unit right there. Just seeing everybody respond accordingly.
Well, once Daryl gets going, he sees everyone as a possum, so you gotta be careful.
Did he get a job?
Not yet.
Not yet. Got anything.
I have ideas.
Bait and tackle shop.
Later that night, after kind of everything has gone down, Rick puts on his new cop uniform and comes down, and like I mentioned earlier in the episode, it reminds me very much of the pilot, when those first couple episodes where he's still wearing his sheriff's uniform. It is really weird to see him in that, which everyone kind of points out. But he sits down with Carol and Daryl, and he tells them a similar thing what Carla told him about the group being, this new group of Alexandria being weak. And he says if they prove too weak to protect themselves, that their group will step up and take this place over. Bum bum bum, and the episode ends.
It's just a good ending. I mean, the whole episode is just really well done. I mean, in terms of getting us into a new location, allowing us to have obvious suspicions, but still be basically wooed over, not necessarily as quickly as the cast, or more so than the cast maybe, but it's just so well handled. And, you're introducing a lot of characters, and we're ones that talk about how the show is great by having smaller focus, but when the ensemble episodes work, they work, and this is one of them that really does work. You get to hear from a lot of the cast members, and as well as a lot of new cast members, and they're all utilized really well. So I was very happy about this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of really nice small elements in this episode. Even when it took like sidetracks, like Rick kind of freaking out when he can't find Carl and Judith, and it's almost this weird section from a Lifetime movie. But I don't mean that in a bad way, but just like him running out into the street and panicking and having this moment of my children have been abducted. Even just those little moments, like everything worked together really well to add a lot of tension to this episode. But it was weird. The tension was ramping at different points, even as we as the viewer were becoming more and more on the side of I think this Alexandria is fine, and then to have that the rug pulled out from underneath at the end where maybe our guys are the villains, kind of. Just great. I really enjoyed it.
It was kind of a roller coaster for me a little bit as far as what you're talking about there, Jordan, because it did have that intenseness of something just does not sit well with this, yet at the same time we are comfortable with it. But it was even more so for me thinking about it because I was thinking about how this ends up, what Alexandria ends up meaning to those of us that have read the comics. And, so I just kept going back and forth between, I think everything's going to be okay. Then, wait a minute, they have twisted things on this show. What are they planning? Just up and down. So, I mean, they've done a really good job of making me mistrust everything that seems hopeful. So, which I think is the goal for the writers on the show. So, good job. Definitely a good episode. I think I'm with Aaron on probably the best one of this season.
Now, if Rick and Carol and Daryl do decide this place is too weak, it's time for us to take over, do we foresee a standoff between those three and other members of the group? Like, is Michonne going to stand for that? Is, Tara and Glenn and Maggie and Abraham, are they going to stand for a hostile takeover of this community if it is indeed as peaceful and nice as it seems?
I don't get, at least to me, when Rick said that, it didn't come off to me as we'll hostily take over. We'll do a hostile takeover because
he's trying to get the guns
right. Well, I mean, I would be too. I mean, the whole thing is you still don't know what's going to happen yet, so it's best to get as much protection for yourself as possible. But I don't think that he's doing anything to intentionally do a hostile takeover because he prefaces it by saying, hopefully they'll be able to get with it, but if not, we'll take it over. Or however he phrased it. But what I got from that was hopefully these people are going to step. It's not so much we're going to step down and join their group and become, Pleasantville here. They're going to have to step up to what we are and mix their stability of their community with our badassness of the ability to survive because we are survivors. So what I'm thinking, the way I took that was if they don't step up, then they're just going to say, hey, look, this is how we're going to do it, and they're just going to take over. I think that it's smart getting the guns in anticipation of people like Aiden or Jesse's husband or something, people that just don't seem very welcoming of them. But at the same time, I think that the entire plan that Deanna's had is to, maybe it wasn't necessarily Rick and his group, but a group of people out there that would come along that has the skill set that they do and been through what they've been and still stood together as a group. I think that she's wanted that to come along and take over the community. So I don't see her having a lot of resistance to it. I think she's actually setting it up to be that way by making him constable and so forth.
I don't know. I see Rick Leadership 2.0 coming.
To get back to address your question, Jordan, I would much prefer there to be kind of an internal struggle between the cast members rather than have another big bad enemy for them to have to deal with at the end of the season.
Yeah, that would be certainly the most interesting thing to me. Although, I mean, a new big bad enemy could be interesting as well.
For sure, yeah, but it's like we've seen that a couple times now. So it's we got Gareth, we have the governor. Given that I like this cast and I like to see more of them in action. It'd be nice to see some internal drama for them, especially given how much emphasis is put on the fact that they're a tight knit family. Seeing that come apart, that provides some dramatic complexity.
Absolutely. So before we get into our busters and what the listeners thought, hey, we have another sponsor, kind of. This episode and every episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast is, of course, brought to you by the HHWLOD Podcast Network, which you can find at hhwlod.com, and all four of us, and the other hosts who are on this show as well, host many podcasts on the network. So let's take a minute to talk about some of those real quick. Aaron, you are, of course, the Aaron of Out Now with Aaron and Abe, a weekly new release movie podcast. What are you guys talking about this week?
This week we were talking about the film Focus, starring Will Smith, which led to much more discussion of Will Smith's career in general than I thought would, but it's quite a fun one. So that's dropping the Wednesday of this week.
Very cool. And Jim and Rich, you're both on the DC TV podcast, which is covering all the many DC television shows that are going on these days, which is a lot. So what are you talking about as the seasons are starting to wind down now?
The latest episode of DC TV podcast, we had episodes of Gotham and Arrow to talk about, and then we also had a bonus segment where we talked about the animated feature based on Batman Year One. Aaron was our guest on that episode, actually, so that works out pretty nicely. But yeah, we were covering Gotham Constantine, which was recently just finished up. The Flash, Arrow. We're also be covering the new iZombie show that starts up in the middle of March based on the Vertigo comics. So if it's DC and it's on TV, we're talking about it.
Very cool. Also on the network we have It's All Connected, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, which talks about all the Marvel movies and television shows. They just had their season finale coverage for Agent Carter, at least as we record this, that's the newest episode up, and very soon we'll be talking about the mid-season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm very excited about. We also have the newest member of the network, which is the Whedonverse podcast, which which is taking a chronological look at the career of Joss Whedon. Right now, they just finished up season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and look back at the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, which I've never actually seen. So I'm holding that episode until I can get a chance to watch that.
What?
Hey, I've seen the rest of the show and all this other work. I just haven't seen that movie. And I assume they'll be going to season 2 very soon as well. We're happy to have them. My personal show is Jersey Shore. That's Jersey !Shore, S-U-R-E ! And this week's episode, which should go up right around the same time this one does, we are actually taking a look back at the career of Leonard Nimoy, who just passed away, which is very sad. And also Star Trek in general we look at. And then we also talk about the Power/Rangers short film that kind of caught fire on the internet this past week, and we had a lot of fun with. And then talk about our memories of Power Rangers as well. Pierce, who likes the show quite a bit, and me and Dave, who even his children realized it was really, really dumb. But we still had a lot of fun talking about it. What other shows on there? We got Half Hour Wasted, we got Legion of Dudes, of course, The Black Box, the Pod Crane Cast, and that show's on, and many, many others. So check out hhwlod.com if you enjoy the show, and there's tons of other content that you will get a kick out of as well. I guarantee it. Except I don't, because if you didn't enjoy it and try to get money from me or something, I don't got any to give you, so sorry. But I think you'll like it. So, Buster ratings, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. Of course, we give a Buster rating to every episode of The Walking Dead, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Jim, let's start with you this week. What did you think of this episode? How many Busters do you give it?
I give it a 4.75, man. To try my highest rating. This is a really good episode. Again, I really enjoyed the filming, framing sequences there with the different characters, especially once I realized what was going on with Carol and Michonne trying to kiss up and ingratiate themselves with their interviews. I like the kind of sense of foreboding it started out with, and kind of unanswered questions that are still happening around what's going on with Alexandria, and of course the clear and present conflict there with the different factions inside. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. So 4.75 for me.
To echo Jim, 4.75 is what I came up with. Very tempted to give it a 5 actually, but 4.75. And there was a lot right with this episode, and there was very, very little wrong. I felt that they did well on all ends of the spectrum of making this episode. So, and it's got me excited for the rest of the season and guessing at what's to come based off of my comic knowledge. This episode really got me going.
I'll go with a 5, honestly. Whatever I gave 4 walls and a roof, I give this episode, and I can't quite recall it offhand, so I'm just going to assume it was a 5, and I'm giving this one a 5 as well. I think it was everything that I would like from the show in a way that's very, very good. I think I've talked about minor issues here or there, but that's not nearly enough to take away from what I think is one of the best episodes of the season.
Very good. I was kind of with Richard, where I was having a hard time deciding on 4.75 or a 5, and I think now that I've heard your guys' ratings, not that I base my ratings on your guys' ratings, but just to even things out, we'll give it 2 4.75s, and I'm going to side with Aaron and give it a 5. There was nothing in this episode that really blew me away, like, oh my gosh, I could have never seen that coming, something crazy. But what it was a really solid hour of television, and a really, really solid hour of The Walking Dead, a show that even in episodes I really like, there's often those things that I can point out, yeah, but there was this thing, and yeah, but there was that thing, and this episode was just really solid. I really enjoyed it. I liked that it was a new direction and a new feel, and unlike many new directions and new feels where it takes them, a few episodes, maybe half a season to figure out how we're going to make this work, this was a new feel, and it worked right out of the gate. So I think I'm going to go with that 5. Really, really solid, and I really enjoyed it. But Jim, who cares what we 4 idiots think? What did the listeners on the Facebook group think of this week's episode?
Well, we have a fairly active Facebook group. It's called The Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group, oddly enough, because you're listening to The Walking Dead TV Podcast. And
I never put that together. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah, we try to keep it streamlined around here. But in addition to a lot of random fun stuff and links to Aaron's reviews of every episode of The Walking Dead that he writes for theyoungfolks.com that you can link to from the Facebook group, we also ask our listeners to write in with their Buster ratings on the episode and some brief thoughts. And we always have a pretty lively community going on there, and this week is no exception. Everard Santa Marina gives a 4.25 creepy jump scare setups out of 5. Oh, I like where they're going. It feels not quite as well executed as we've grown accustomed to. Deanna feels either insincere or not convincingly well acted. Aiden's a total jerk, and it feels like they went way out of the way to make us think that. But it's probably new territory trying to convince us something is wrong. But they're not total whack jobs like most of the previous groups the survivors have encountered. My concern is this becomes more high school drama than survivalist drama, as Enid Sinnott seemed to indicate. Although saying that she's been out there, she's probably closest to their state of mind. Well, that's true too. Mike Jones, 5 awesome possums out of 5. I'd give it more than a 5 if possible. One of my favorite episodes ever in the series. What was up with those kids Coral hung out with? Felt like the Lost Boys. I think that the wall jumping emo girl found Rick's blender gun. There's a sentence I don't say very often. Next, Sophie said 4.5 out of 5 opossums. I was in love with the episode from the beginning. From the moment Daryl said, we brought dinner. Since everyone was shipping last week, I'll start off this week. Enarl is totally happening. It'll start when Carl offers her a bite of his pudding. Also, Max Suffer said he was watching. He determined he was going to make a Rick Steamy joke about the shower scene, but totally forgot and had to come back and say it later. Robin Young Sanders gave it 4.85 grams of beard shavings. An excellent episode, full of tension as you wait for things to unravel one way or another. David B. the third, 4.5 unshaven Daryl Dixon faces out of 5. I was just waiting for the kids to bust out the Walking Dead video games on their Xbox. As long as they're the ones by Telltale and not the ones by
Survival Instincts?
Yeah, not Survival Instincts. Let's see, Tom Bono at 4.5. Where the hell is the Preacher out of 5? A solid episode.
Who cares?
Yeah, I didn't listen very much.
I don't say that to be derisive of you, a listener. I understand why people are like, hey, where are these characters? Just I don't want to see that character.
We got Brent Jones at 3.5 dirty Daryl Dixons out of 5. I understand we have to view them adjusting this environment, but I watch this one with a sense of dread. I'm really worried my love of the show diminished returns into a soap opera about the community. Oh, I don't know about that, buddy. Stay tuned is all I gotta say there.
And the show's been a soap opera since the beginning?
Yeah, but there are zombies.
Yeah, still a soap opera.
Zombies. I know,
it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's all I'm saying.
Zombies. Tricia Tara Collins, 4 out of 5 weasels ripped my flesh. Walkers. Hey, nice Frank Zappa lift there. Carol was the ultimate weirdo. What was that piece of paper she took off the counter?
It was a blank legal pad, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she might be taking notes. She might want to do the old pencil shavings trick and see what was written on it last. She might be making a map. Maybe she's like paper. Maybe she's one of those people who eats paper.
Maybe she's
we'll find that out.
It looked to me like she was drawing out the perimeter of the camp or the community.
Which seems like something she would do, so, and it's smart, so.
Shauna Whiteman Gebart gave 4.5 hot steamy showers out of 5. I love how strategically Carol was approaching this group. Even when she was placing her gun in the cart, she was playing a role. And her comment about getting to know the neighbors, she saved them all once I considered doing it again. Robert Nigro, 4.5 Carol's looking ridiculous out of 5. Giving Rick's statement at the very end, listen to how he lays it all out for Diane and DM in the interview, how it may likely go down, but she's giving it right back to Rick. She plays poker and has videos of all the interviews to study them later. We also got a couple pictures here comparing the way Carol dressed at the end of the episode to Serial Mom, which are fairly close. That was a great movie, Kathleen Turner, John Waters movie. John Waters. Belinda Clark Gake, solid 4 out of 5. Creepy Carol neighbors. Alexander may not be safe from The Walking Dead. Mary Chuck Takia, 4 out of 5. Beards gone bye-bye. I really like the episode and the way they worked it with the unease of the new group environment. Love the sense of not knowing which way the community can go. The paranoia is palpable. Harold Chuck, 4 out of 5. Mr. Rogers Sweaters. I like the vibe of the show and the uncertainty of this group. I also like that Daryl won't take a shower. Is he afraid that he doesn't if he doesn't he'll dress like Carol? Dun, dun, dun. We got 4 possum kebabs from Roger Austin. Loving how the season's building up a couple of slow episodes. Ian Timms, whose house? Ron's house. 4 out of 5 Busters. Really enjoyable episode. Setting things up for when it all goes wrong again. Luke Smith, 4 out of 5. This episode, I absolutely love Carol. This episode, keep your cards very close to her chest. Still my favorite character. I believe it was the young girl who jumped the wall, stole Rick's gun, and she's clearly done that before. Maybe witnessed Rick stashing it before they entered the community. That might be who was watching them from that abandoned house on the outside. Too.
Yeah, I've seen that theory going around, and I like it quite a bit.
Richard Chopper Cherry Charrington, 4 razor blades out of 5. Loved Daryl's one-liner at the start. We brought dinner. The episode had me on the edge of my seat, not for fear of walkers, but for fear of the new group. Each episode is improving and making me want more. Keep it up, AMC. Roll on next Monday. Chris Pierce, I give this episode 3 out of 5 copies of Wolf Fight, the comic Carl found. Also, the show has never used the term zombies in reference to last week's podcast argument. I'm waiting for a heartfelt apology, and I think your podcast host will forgive you if you order them a pizza.
Yes, I received messages about that. I still stand by. I seem to remember it happening, but maybe I was wrong. Sorry.
Somebody's gonna order me a pizza. I will say whatever you need. Jimmy Tucker, 4.5 comics, 4 out of 5. I've not read this far into the comics, so I have no idea what is happening. But this place seems too good to be true. Carol was amazing this episode. And like I said, if you want to post your thoughts on the episodes of The Walking Dead that happened, your mini review, we'll read them here on the show. We try to keep the most current and interesting news about Walking Dead on the update on the site. And like I said, you can also see links there to Aaron's written reviews of each episode of The Walking Dead, theyoungfolks.com. It's all at the Walking Dead TV podcast Facebook group. Join us. Now, did you guys see this? The news story about how they're selling off the city that appeared in the episode Clear? They're auctioning it off. Yeah,
the actual city.
The actual city in
The
Georgia.
entire city? No, pieces of the city.
Well, it's like 9 buildings, and it's basically the whole town. It's like $600,000 or something. But
No,
Hey, it's a steal. That's less than you pay for one of those houses in Alexandria.
no, I'm saving my money waiting for Norman Reedus to put Andy Lincoln's beard up on eBay.
So until next time, you can leave us a voicemail at 972-798-3830 or an email, wdtv@hhwlod.com. And of course, like we already said, check out hhwlod.com for all of our great shows that we already mentioned. You can follow us on Twitter at hhwlod_network. And so until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, was the name of this episode. Have a good week, everybody.
wow,
Oh, wow.
that was pretty meta, dude.
That was like a Perd Happy joke right there.
Great news is not the headline I will be reading on this week's episode. And of course, next week on The Walking Dead, and if you don't want to know anything about next week's episode, believe me, there's not much here in terms of spoilers, but if you don't want to know anything, cut out now, have a great week. But if you don't mind knowing the name of the episode and the synopsis from TVGuide.com, next week's episode 513, is entitled Forget. Get it? Because this week's episode was called Remember? Next week's is called Forget. And the synopsis we have is Rick and the group continue to acclimate to their new surroundings. Not exactly surprising. And on the scene from next week's episode that we saw on Talking Dead, it was actually a pretty cool scene, mostly silent, but Sasha out in the woods using some old framed photographs for target practice as she practices her sniping. And she seems to be getting pretty good at that, as we saw in this week's episode as well. Mm-hmm. Seems to me they could be setting her up to take the place of a character from the comics who isn't around anymore. Just a thought.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I see where you're going with that.
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
I'm trying to think of a line from the sketch from Monty Python, but all I can think of is know what I mean.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, say no more, say no more.
Say no more. Have a good week, everybody.
Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood, in your neighborhood. Say, who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet each day.
This Walking Dead Wikipedia page was last edited 41 minutes ago by Batman TAS.
Damn straight it was.
The animated series did it.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, and hold that mic in a different place so it's more.
Whoa,
Like away from your brush?
holding it.
No, I was just trying to get my chest.
Nobody wants to hear that, man. That's a different podcast.